Okay, so chapter 4 is a short one, so I'm sure that makes everyone feel better. And I'm still kind of getting over a cold, so forgive me if I'm kind of hoarse. Chapter 4 spends quite a lot of time talking about the films that really delve into what women were going through during the war years. And I don't know what kind of sketchy high school education you guys had, but during World War II, pretty much every healthy man between the ages of 18 and 45 was drafted into the war, with a few exceptions. And that left the women at home to work in the factories and earn their own money. And they had unprecedented freedom because there was no man to answer to, basically, in the home. So they, in some of the films, it sort of delves into the loneliness and sadness of being alone, but some of the films delve into like the kinds of hijinks that the women could be involved in, like infidelity, wild living, all of these different things. So women are portrayed as strong, as in Mildred Pierce, where you see a woman who had to earn everything by herself, but you also see women like in Leave Her to Heaven, who are just plain she-devils, like they're just evil. And perhaps these sinister portrayals somehow represent a kind of fear that men had about women who have more autonomy than they've ever had before, what would befall them, or what they would turn into if left to their own devices. So many pictures that represent the challenges of the women during the war years. Tree Grows in Brooklyn, Since You Went Away, Mrs. Miniver, Mrs. Parkington, Now Voyager. And some of them are melodramas that represent powerful women as sinister, like in Leave Her to Heaven and Foolish Heart. I kind of have to read, I'm supposed to be reading the slides themselves, because if there was, like, say, theoretically a blind person taking this class that couldn't read the slide, then I have to do it too. So forgive me for like reading stuff that you can read for yourself. Just keep in mind there are people that can't. Okay, so some themes from chapter 4. Your book specifically looks at Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane as interesting projects that meld art and business. Really, that is this is considered like the golden age of cinema in these times, where cinema reaches sort of its peak of both like making money and being like the greatest pinnacle of the arts, essentially. The film industry really did try to make films the military wanted to see. And they also contributed to the war effort by offering screenings for free to the military. And the film industry was instrumental in sending the message that the government was interested in spreading, like why we need to be involved, why it's good to join the military, all the Frank Capra Why We Fight series, for example. But it should be noted that the Production Code Administration discouraged political themes in films. While they wanted to sort of like, the film industry was important in sort of pushing a certain amount of pro-war propaganda, in the fictional films, the Production Code Administration didn't want to see openly political themes because it made them harder to sell overseas. And there were still overseas film markets that the United States was filling. One of the directors that your book really gets into is Preston Sturges. And Preston Sturges was an interesting cat. He's not as well known as the other director of this era, Billy Wilder, but he made really escapist comedies. He's in many ways been called the anti-Capra because his films are just pure entertainment, really. And if there is a moral, it isn't heavy-handed. Capra tends to be far more heavy-handed, strong moral code. Your book also points out that it's a time of lowbrow comedies, of Abbott and Costello, of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, and these tend to be adapted stage acts from this period. So a lot of comedy duos that may have even started in vaudeville, they become from their adapted stage acts, they become comic duos that make movies. The last movie that this chapter really delves into is Meet Me in St. Louis. Spends quite a bit of time talking about it. And this is a film about a family, and they're going to move to another town. But in order to move to that other town, they have to leave the town that they're in, the small town life that they're in, and move to the city. And in so doing, and following this family and this adjustment to coming to terms with the fact that they're going to have to move, the family begins to realize how great small town American life is. And so it's in many ways, this film salutes small town American life. And so, and in fact, if you extract that meaning to like be a broader thing, really that's what we're fighting for when we're fighting World War II. You could say that this film shows men what's worth fighting for in a very real sense, small town American values, and the simple things that are truly American. And that's what this family learns. And in the end, they decide not to move. So that's really what this film is about. And so although it's about appreciating what you have and not forgetting how valuable that is. And so that was an important message for everyone to learn during World War II. And that's the end of our lecture. It's a shorty this week.